Welcome back to the Spartacus Project, everybody. After the first few podcasts we did, I was getting a lot of questions from people about you, Chris. And I'm like, yeah, I'm friends with Chris. I feel like I've known him for years, but I don't know the answers to these basic human questions about him. So we'll do a little getting to know Gobby here. What do you do for a living, Chris?
Um, I own a lawn care business, basically lawn mowing business. I started that last year. And my goal was to make as much money in 5 months where I can take the summer off, the winter off rather. So to help me with that, I'm also a head chef at a kitchen. So I work there evenings. So my lawn takes me is about 30, 40 hours during the day. I work about 25, 30 hours in the evening as a kitchen guy. And then I do 12 to 15 hours a week as personal caregiving for two elderly people. So that's basically 85 hours a week, and make enough money where in about a month from now, I'm done for 7 months till next year. So that's what I do.
That's awesome. That's sweet that you can set yourself up to work less than half the year. You just bust your ass
Yeah,
for a while.
yeah, yeah. No, that's it. So I've had many jobs in the last 10 years. I've been a supervisor. I've done physical labor stuff. I do some personal training stuff on the side when I can. Um, but yeah, so that's what I'm up to now.
So you're a chef. What's your specialty?
I'm not really a chef. It's a bistro pub. So, and I'm the grill guy. So it's basically a ton, like it's high volume sales. So it's got to work fast and efficient. But we're talking hamburgers, we're talking pizzas, we're talking steak sandwiches. It's nothing elaborate.
Okay, that's still cool.
Yeah.
I know you live in Canada now. Have you always lived in Canada, born and raised?
Born and raised, lived in Ontario, born and raised in Quebec, lived in Ontario, traveled all over. Um, yeah, so Canadian citizen. I've been to, I think, almost every state. I've been to the United States quite a bit, but never lived there.
And how old are you, Chris?
Uh, I'll be 50 in December.
Oh, wow, that's a big one.
Yeah,
You don't look 50. I think some people think you're younger than me, honestly, people that don't know. So,
thank you.
you got siblings? I know you have a sister, don't you?
Sister, she's 2 years younger.
Okay, that's your only sibling?
Yeah.
Okay. And you grew up with both parents?
They got divorced. They got divorced when I was two, and I was raised primarily by my mother, who's, I mean, an absolutely exceptional woman. My father was a great father, and he had some say in how I grew up. But my mom did all the heavy lifting with me. We didn't have much money. She worked full time, went to school part time, made sure my sister and I had everything we needed. Remarkable, remarkable woman.
It's cool. Are your parents still living?
Yeah, they both live close to me. Everyone gets along. They get along very well. They're both 77 respectively. Yeah. No, my mom's 77. My father's 76.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever been married? I know you don't have any kids. Have you been married?
Nope.
Okay. Any long-term relationships, or is it just one stripper after another?
No, I yeah. Well, It's an interesting story. I had one long-term relationship in my life, and it was about 4.5, 5 years long. And up to that point, so that was in my late 30s. Up to that point, I had never really explored my idea of meeting somebody was like this romantic inclination of falling in love and meeting this one woman and creating a family. And I had that ideology right through my teens into my 20s and 30s. And so when it happened, I was like, wow, this is it. It's coming into fruition. This is what I dreamt of about, having an intimate long-term relationship. And then when it didn't work out, and I had like two, three sexual experiences under my belt, slept with three women before the age of 40. And then I said, no, no more long-term. I got to start. So I got to make up for the lack of judgment I had in my 20s and 30s. So basically, I'm trying to do now what I should have really been doing in my teens, 20s, and 30s,
All right.
which is just basically I'm not as sleazy as I lead on, but I definitely looking for healthy connections. But I mean, for me, I break down women into two categories when I talk or meet with them. They're either and I'm transparent with all of them. Either it's healthy connections, so we go hiking, we work out, um, sleep together, all that stuff. But there's no concessions on my end, and there's no long term or even exclusivity on my end. Or every once in a while, I run into what I call a one percenter, which is an exceptional human being, where I think it could work long term. But in those situations, it has to be reciprocated. So I am open to like a long-term committed relationship, but it's probably not in the cards.
All right, I get it. I kind of I'm shocked that you I figured you were just a professional stunt cock since the time you were of age. So
No, no, no. I was no incredibly uh like traditional, and my I always, one girl, that was my only goal. One girl. I didn't sleep around in my 20s and my 30s, and that was always my goal. That's how I thought it should be done. Um, and then when it didn't work out, I realized, man, my judgment, not necessarily um, my what I thought was right or wrong, but my judgment on reading people and reading situations was flawed. And so when I became, single in my 39, 38, I'm hopeful like something could happen, but it's time to just explore intimate relationships and explore psychology a bit more and read people better and read women better and really up my emotional IQ, because my emotional IQ, my instincts were kind of not bad, but I hadn't the experience to really forge those instincts. So between the ages of like 38 and now, in terms of reading humans, I'm like, it's night and day. Like I can't be lied to. It's hard to bullshit me. Women will say things, and I'm like, no, like, yeah, I just can't be manipulated. I see things a mile away. But I've probably had in the last 50, I guess 10, 12 years, I've probably had 1,000 first dates, if not more. Like between 2013 and 2016, 17, um, I was going to Montreal every week and I was setting up like 3, 4 dates, just meeting. Someone get physical, sure, but in that span, you cannot not learn about people and yourself when you meet that many people and try to learn from that many people. So great experience dating for me, but most of it was, I mean, it was a great experience in terms of upping my self analysis and general emotional IQ.
yeah, with that volume of interactions with women, I guess you would learn quite a bit about. You've probably seen everything under the sun with 1,000 first dates. So
Right, and because my sexual experience prior to age 38 was very vanilla, and I was timid in a way. I just totally threw myself in situations where I was incredibly not comfortable just because I thought it was something I should do. So we're talking like orgies and stuff like that, things that I would never ever dream of. And I said, "Fuck it, I'm going to try things now." Because one day I won't be able to, and that day might be coming up sooner than I think. So I just did things that were unnatural to me just to see how I would deal with it.
yeah, that's for sure. I This wasn't a question I had thought of, but I know you're not religious.
No,
Um, so and you weren't raised religious at all. You never had religion in your life, really.
we were raised Catholic, and we went to church religiously. But at a certain point, my parents let us, my sister and I, make a decision, and I guess I was probably about um, 11 or 12, and I didn't stop going to church, and um, believed in God at that point. At that point, I did, but just didn't go to church anymore. And my parents never pushed it.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk more about religion on another day. I found it interesting that you were almost taking like a religious approach towards finding a woman early on, like a real traditional.
Yeah, um, yeah. No, it was very traditional, but not in the religious sense. It was just that I thought, and I was very timid and shy with women when I was, in high school and stuff like that. And so it wasn't. It was never a natural idea for me to date and go to parties and hook up. It was always like meet this one. And I wasn't into drugs. I was super clean. All I did was, play sports and watch movies and stuff. So for me, and then once I found a woman that everything meshed and everything made sense, and the commonality and the shared values, everything was there. And in my mind, this is it. This has led up to all those years of sacrifice have led up to this moment. And I just believe that this is the one. And it was a very healthy relationship. But when it ended, I just realized I needed more experience to make that call, to make the call whether or not she was quote unquote the one, or this was an incredibly compatible relationship. I needed more than just a couple sample sizes of reference. And but when I realized that, it was too late. But no harm, no foul. I mean, we weren't married and there were no kids, so no harm, no foul. It wasn't abusive. There was no toxicity. So you move on.
Yeah, it just didn't work out.
Exactly. Yeah.
You mentioned it a little there. How did arm wrestling start for you, or when did you start? And what's your like general athletic background? Did you play? You said you played sports, but like what sports did you play? What were you involved in?
Yeah. So I almost lost my leg when I was coming out of elementary school. So and I had to do 2 years of rehab going into high school. So when I went to high school, I was limping. I had trouble. First year was a walking boot. Second year was crutches. And then I said when I lose my when I'm able to, and it took me about 6 months to walk again. But once I was able to become fully functional, I joined every sport I could. Every sport mid like so we're talking. Well, for you, it would be going into my senior year, halfway through high school, whatever that is in the States. We don't do junior. I would be, you have junior, senior, freshman, no, freshmen. Anyway, it was somewhere in the middle. And then I just did everything. But one thing I excelled the most was wrestling. I did Greco-Roman wrestling. I did really, really well. Won competitions. I also played soccer. I played rugby. I did everything I could. Every night after, well, every day after school, I would go play sports. I would be on some type of team. And then I was always underweight. Like we're talking 120 pounds in my second or third year of high school. And then when I wanted to play other sports where there weren't weight classes, I was in trouble. So my dad hired me a physical trainer, and he said, "Okay, this is what you got to do." And within about a year, going into my last year of high school, I put on about 40, 50 pounds, and I was about 170, and 170 very, very strong. And so at that point, I just loved weightlifting. And at that point, I graduated high school, and I left all the sports behind, and I just lived in the gym. And I was absolutely obsessed with the gym for close to a decade. Got just trying to break numbers and PRs and all that stuff, and just obsessed with that. And then as the weight I got heavier, I became more limited. I couldn't play sports. I couldn't run. Like we're talking me at 220, 230 now. So, and at one point, I guess going into my 26, 27 years old, I said, I'm going to do a complete 180. And I just did long distance running. So 5 mile, 10 mile, 15 mile, half marathons was the most I did. And I was good. I dropped a whole bunch of weight, and I was competitive. And then when it all turned around was, I guess I was 29 or 30, and I was sitting in my mom's house, and I had an epiphany. And I said, I was good at everything I did, every sport I pursued, but I was never great. Now I'm 30, and I got to pursue something, and it might be the last thing I can conceivably pursue where I can be, really be excellent at something. What can I do? And just by chance, it was the first time I opened up the computer and I checked Google, and I did arm wrestling, and the Mike Gould Classic 2004 came up, and it was like 2 weeks away. And just a little bit of backstory: in high school, when I was underweight, and I was like 120 pounds at the lunchroom, the 280-pound football players couldn't budge me arm wrestling. Like no one beat me. No one ever touched my arm. No one budged my arm in high school, despite giving up 100 pounds. So I figured maybe there's something there. So I went to the Michael Classic, and nervous as shit, you know, uh, drove through the night because I couldn't sleep, weighed in without sleeping, and I think I made 154 at about 146. I was 146, 147 pounds because I was still kind of running, so I was still lean. And I think I took third in the amateur rank, and then met a team out of Quebec, and then started training with them, but was still running. And then I went to another tournament, and I got absolutely destroyed. So it discouraged me a bit. And then 3 months before the Mike Gould Classic 2005, I fully committed. I dropped everything. I just, arm wrestling, weight training geared to arm wrestling. And I said, that's it. I'm going to go to this tournament, and I'm going to walk through the amateurs at 160 pounds and diet down, or I'll do something else. And I walked through the amateurs, and I got like 2 wins on pro in the pro class. And then that was it for me. I won my provincials 3 months later, won my nationals 3 months after that, got sponsored to go to the worlds. And then it was like a 13, 14, 15-year journey, of getting on the road every 2 weeks, going to every tournament I can drive to within an 8-hour radius in the Northeast United States and Canada, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely picture you as a wrestler. You're built like a wrestler, like a
Yeah.
short, compact, little spark plug guy. Like all the wrestlers are super short and compact. Like we went to my son had a practice at University of Michigan this summer, and there was a wrestler there. He's wrestling. He wrestled in the Olympics for Mexico. He made the Mexican team, but he couldn't make the American team. And we were watching him out on the mat. He was having a little private workout before Levi got out there and practiced with the other kids. And Levi's 5'8", and this guy gets off the mat and walks by Levi, and Levi's like 6 inches taller than him. And this is like essentially a grown man. He's like 23, 24 years old. And Levi just looks at me. He's like, I pictured him way bigger. I'm like, dude, you're tall for a wrestler, son. All the wrestlers are short dudes.
Yeah. Arm wrestling wasn't natural for me. Like it took me about a year or two to maybe actually it took me about 3, 4 years before I can put my elbow on the table and know what I needed to do and everything fell into place. Like I was lucky I was stronger than most 154 guys because all I did was grip around the wrist. Um, there's a reason I'm talking this story. It leads back to your son. But anyway, uh, wrestling for me, whenever I wrestled on the mat, the beginning of a match was always natural to me. Um, the clinches, all that stuff for me was incredibly natural. I never felt out of place, even when I lost on a wrestling mat. I always felt that I had a natural disposition to wrestle and be good. Pound for pound, I was always strong. Um, I just never, there was not like, arm wrestling was a kind of cool sport for me because I can pick and choose the tournaments. I control. I want to go by myself. I go. Like it's really easy to invest in arm wrestling if you're just a regular guy. You don't need a team. You don't really don't need any of that. And you can pick and choose which tournaments you want to go to that revolve around your work schedule or life schedule. So for me, arm wrestling made sense, but it was not natural. And I excelled at the beginning, but arm wrestling was not a natural thing for me, like mat wrestling was. Mat wrestling for me, so was football. Football was incredibly natural for me. Using physical leverage to move another man, which is essentially wrestling, was incredibly natural to me. But the arm wrestling was not.
Yeah. I had something I was gonna say and then I just lost it. Yeah. Every one of those moments. Um, yeah, that was all the questions I really had for you. Anybody else has anything else? That was like the bulk of the questions that I got about you. That
If I can go back, at one point in my life, I went back as a mature student to university or college rather, mainly to be a cop and to play football. And this was in my early 20s, I think. And I was about 220. And I was working out with a guy at that gym, and he was a running back for the team. And he says, my coach has to meet you because I was 220 and I was always, I never lost a race. My buddies and I would always race and I'd never lose. We're talking sprints. And even at 220, I was incredibly like fast twitch fiber. And so the coach came into the gym and I was like playing with 3 plates, like just playing with 3 plates. I probably got 4 plates from 4 or 5 reps. And then he says, "Can you run?" And I said, "I can run. I've never been timed." And he brought me in, and he did it. Yeah, and I ran a 4.640, 4.6140 at 223 pounds or something like that. And so he said, "Try out for the team." And at the same time, I was applying to be into the school. He says, "You can't play any games even if you make the team if you're not accepted." So I made the team, but I didn't get accepted into the program, so I didn't end up playing football for them. But football for me was another one. If I was ever going to make money as an athlete, it was like at the time maybe a halfback or maybe like an undersized outside linebacker maybe. Um, I would have done well, like not NFL type well, but I would have done good on like Canadian college level. Um, but arm wrestling was where it went, and man, it was the people I met. It was a 14, 15-year journey of arm wrestling, and then the road trips and all the experiences. I don't regret anything, but yeah. So that's basically my athletic background.
yeah, running a 4.6 when you're 220 or 230 at your height is wild.
Yeah.
Like you probably could have got to 200 pounds and still been jacked for your height and probably run like 4.4. Like
The problem is that the team had a great, great, great running back, and they only played a one back. They didn't play with a fullback, and he was their best player. So they tried to convert me. So I said, put me at linebacker or put me at like safety. He said, you're too big for safety. So what he did is he had me on the defensive line because I had a great, I had the best bench on the team. And he says, well, if you have a great bench, you'll be great on the line. Except I'm pushing guys 330 and I'm 220. Like they were just collapsing on my spine. And it was just, I'm like, the coach is an idiot. You can't, I mean, it doesn't matter how strong my bench is. If I'm pushing a guy 80 pounds heavier and 7 inches taller, he does not have to be as strong as me to own the leverage battle. Right. Um, so
yeah, he
uh,
just straightened his arms out on you.
that's right. That's right. So, I mean, I was athletic and fast, and I love to pursue. And I'm a defensive-minded guy. I would have loved to play like a free safety or a strong safety position against the run. But anyway, it didn't work out. Probably better because I would have got concussed, and I don't think football's the smartest career path for someone who wants to have a long, healthy life. Um, so
Yeah, definitely it's not. Football's your brain takes a beating. Even if you don't get to the NFL. Just playing years and years, your brain takes a beating. I remember what I wanted to say to you. You said arm wrestling wasn't natural to you at first. Do you think that has to do with you being such a gym rat and coming from such a hard lifting background that you were trying to lift with your arm as opposed to like use it dynamically?
that's half of it. Half of it was the fact that I believed I was stronger than everyone else, and I just wanted to. The first tournament I go to, I got top rope, and then I said to Mike Gould, I said to I forget who I asked. It might have been Earl Wilson or Devin, and I said, my hand is smaller than everyone else's hand. Everyone else's hand. What can I do? And they said, go talk to that man over there, and they pointed to Mike Gould, and I went to go see Mike Gould, who at the time was probably 290, jacked, with a hand not much longer than mine, but very thick. And he says, Chris, grab everyone on the wrist. It'll eventually make sense to you, but in the meantime, grab everyone. And we're not talking low, not capped. We're talking right around the center of their wrist. And I started winning because we're talking guys 154 with skinny arms, and I had 17 and a half inch arms at 157. So, and I had a good natural cup, good wrist. My back fingers were always strong because my hand was wider than it is long. So it was easy for me to contain, right? Um, it's built to contain, not to roll, opposed to like Herman Stevens' hand, which would be not very wide, but very, very long. Anyway, so that's what I started doing. But yeah, I was trying to overpower, and I never want to hit. Everything was catch and drag, catch and drag. The other reason it wasn't natural is because when you give up arm length, forearm length more specifically, and hand length to your opponent, and you're not a master arm wrestler, everything is fucking uncomfortable. I'm sure you can relate a bit because you're not tall and long for your weight class. Um, but and I didn't know anything about strap pulling. So every time I gripped up with someone, every time without exception, for the first 5-6 years of my arm wrestling career, I felt I was going to lose a match. And every time what happened is they got the hit, my back fingers would stop it at about 2-3 o'clock, and then I just slam them across. Um, my bicep lock and back fingers saved me, but I could not for the life of me engage north south on the table.
Yeah.
Even 10 years later, I couldn't.
No, I know exactly what you mean. I'm still primarily with my right. I'm still primarily a defensive puller, which is part of the reason I tore my bicep. I'm so comfortable on defense, thinking I can just pull back from a defensive position. I'm like, yeah, I've done this 1,000 times. So you fall into a comfort zone for sure. And I think part of my problem was I was just a gym rat for years too, and I was just trying to do lifts. Like when I started arm wrestling, I'm like, yeah, like you said, like I know I'm strong, and I'm just trying to do like these silly like a lift, not even that connected. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to do like real caveman shit. So yeah, it took me a while to figure out. It took me a while too. I started winning when I stopped capping. Because when I started, everyone's like, you got to cap, you got to cap. And I started gripping people low, just like you, and I started winning. So
Capping's fine if you have good long fingers because you can contain by capping. If you don't have a long hand and you cap and you're trying to defend, capping is an aggressive offensive tactic. It's not a defensive tactic unless you have a very long hand. But it's always an interesting topic of, would you rather be have this great physical strength background going into the sport fresh, or would you rather have no background? I wouldn't say athletic potential because that's not right. You always want potential, but would you want with a gym background or no gym background? And this and scenario give to guys that I try to teach is Corey Miller, weak as fuck, lost for the first year, zero gym background, no muscle. So what did he do? He learned. He learned timing. He learned leverage. He learned all that shit. Pronation, looking to take the strength away from his opponent. He became like the Bruce Lee of arm wrestling with no strength. And then eventually the strength came, and it came. And then he became, at one point, the best 154 right arm puller in North America. And he held that title for a decade. And he had no gym background. So I asked the question: if a guy has a good technical acumen and he's hungry and he's all the intangibles, it might be good that he doesn't have the gym background. Not saying that he doesn't have the potential to build himself in the gym. We're not saying that, but he doesn't have the background because then he's going to be forced to learn and absorb and find ways to win technically, and then the strength comes in. Because when you have a meathead who lives in the gym and he arm wrestles and he's gonna right from the get go try to stop and pull, and he's gonna build bad habits, and eventually he's gonna get wins more than the other guy. But eventually, at the 5 to 6, 7 year mark, he's going to have trouble breaking those bad habits. Where the other guy, the Corey Miller template, his strength is going to kick in, and he already has great table habits. So in the first 5 years, the meathead's going to get more wins in the amateur ranks, low level pro ranks. But after 5 years, you're going to see the other guy. He's going to start excelling into the elite pro. That's my take on that stuff. There's a lot of factors involved too, other than that base. But I think it hurt me more than it helped me being a gym guy going into arm wrestling. It hurt me more because my mind could not break. I always believed I can outpower people, even going against. I just need to stop them. Just need to stop them. And if I started just back pressure and pronation, at the age of 33, 34, and just stayed with it, I could have been been a really dominant strap puller. I could have been world class, because the strength was. I always had to give up leverage to everyone and come back. Imagine if I didn't have to do that. Anyway.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's always easier to fill an empty bucket. So people that are set in stone and have their ways, or even if there's part of it too is just when you've trained your body so long a certain way, you can be telling it to do something that just won't cooperate. You're gonna have to really, really work at it to get that coordination down. And it can be real frustrating. Plus, nobody likes to train their weaknesses. Nobody wants to go even in practice. People don't want to go to practice and be like, all right, you're going to lose every time today doing this, but you have to do this for months to learn your coordination and learn this move. So yeah, the only advantage really to being someone who's lifted and trained hard and gotten strong, a lot of those guys know what it takes to get stronger, and they know the expectations to have. They didn't get strong, most of them, overnight. They spent years building that, so that a lot of them can translate to okay, I know it's going to take me a long time, and they're going to be consistent. They're going to train. So as long as they have an IQ above 70,
yes,
they will progress. Some people are just too stupid to learn or too stubborn to learn. But it's crazy too. I think a lot of the strongest guys I've met starting out are physical labor type guys. They're not even gym rats. They're physical labor guys. They cut trees and climb trees, and they're hardcore mechanics, or they shovel and dig all day, or they're construction workers. And those guys have the tendon strength and the tools you'd want, but they're all fucking wild men. They're drunks. They're not training. They'll go to a tournament. They don't really practice. So it's really it's hard to find all of it. You're not going to find a construction worker who's also a gym rat and has a high IQ. It's hard to get all those things. So really, you got to work with what you got.
In 2005, I went down. Bill Sinks had Vermont State Championship every year, and they gave, especially in the early 2004-5, they gave these beautiful fucking jackets for the first place. And I mean beautiful. I still have it. I don't even wear it. It's so amazing. And I remember going, and I said, I'm in the finals with this one guy, and it's a 154, and he's about 5'10", thin, skinny arms. And I said to my buddy, I got 2 jackets. Going home with 2 jackets. Right arm, he just fucking killed me, and I mean killed me. And I don't mean flash pin. He just beat my right arm, and then I was able to stave him off and win the left. But I talked to him afterwards, and even slow pulling him, I had nothing for him right-handed. And I said, "What do you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I throw hay all day. All day. That's all I do is throw hay." And I didn't make sense to me. But a couple of years later, I was helping a friend throw hay, and right in the tendons, and I'm like, man, if someone does this 8 hours a day, their fucking tendons are gonna be strong. It's a repetitive motion builds tensile strength, right? We know this. Turning wrenches, all that shit. But the guy did not look anything. He did not look. That's when I realized arm wrestling strength isn't an optical strength. It's not something you can see. It's something that's the strongest arm wrestlers in the world that don't take PEDs necessarily, don't look like they're the strongest guy, but they're Brian Johnson. I don't know if you know this, from Montana, arm wrestled a lot in the mid 2000s. Beat RVJ, beat Brent Rockers, but he was a runner, and he was tall and thin and skinny fucking arms. But Jesus Christ, he had this lock on him that was unbelievable, and he did not look like anything. If you saw him on the street, you're like, this guy can't do anything physically. But he was, he was an endurance athlete, but coming from an endurance athlete sport, but unbelievable tensile strength.
Yeah, some of the randoms that I've felt that have the most side pressure are guys that are pitchers, strong throwing arms. They don't have any muscle mass to speak of, really, but they've got so much tendon strength from just throwing 100-mile-an-hour gas. Their side pressure is crazy.
It's that transmission, right? They build that transmission, which is the elbow, and that translates exactly to our sport, which is why pitchers and arm wrestlers struggle with chronic elbow problems. They're trying to explode through their elbow. We're trying to contain and blow through human beings, their complete body with a lock with our elbow. So yeah, there's a lot of carryover there for sure.
Yeah, I had some other. I want to do a little word association exercise with you here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna name an arm wrestler. You say the very first word that comes to your mind. Sometimes it's hard to pick one word, so if it's a couple words or a sentence, that's fine too. And then I'll tell you, I did mine too as I did this, and just the first word that came to mind when I thought of these people off the top of my head. All right, first arm wrestler, Prudnick.
Versatile.
The exact word I had, versatile. Letter for letter. So yeah, crazy versatility. And there's people that are versatile that are like, oh, this guy's got an okay hook. This guy's got a decent top roll. He can press in certain angles. Prudnick's like elite everywhere, really. Like he can beat good. He can top roll good hookers. He can hook good top rollers. He can press with his wrist bent back. He can press in a hook. Like he can do. I feel like there's no angle. I think the only guy who's more versatile than him, and I don't even know that he's more versatile. He just is Andrabayev. They're both incredibly versatile.
Yeah.
Next one, Todd Hutchings.
Iron.
That's a good one.
I can use a lot of words, warrior, gladiator, but for me it's iron. Iron mind, iron will, iron arm, iron, just, yeah.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Warrior mentality. Like everything about the guy, the way he pulls, the way he trains. The fact that he's gotten better and he's getting close to 60.
He's a throwback. He's a throwback mentality. Psychologically speaking, he's a throwback human being. He's a rarity. He's a 1 in 10,000, if not more. In the mind, I'm not talking the body, because his body's nothing exceptional. He has a wrist that goes back, and his elbow was developed by him. Like, this is not a gifted physical athlete. Everything he has, he's built. So it's his mind, right?
Yeah, he's a brilliant arm wrestler, and just like he's kind of a brilliant mind in general. I think that gets kind of lost sometimes, especially with people that just watch the sport and don't like listen to him speak or like watch his YouTube videos. Like, he has his own channel. Like I practiced with him for a couple hours a few years ago, and highly intelligent human being.
Yeah.
And like you said, he built his body specifically for arm wrestling, and like you wouldn't like he almost like used his engineer mind to engineer his arm for arm wrestling.
If I was a genie and I can say, Darren, I'll give you 1 or 2 skills. One is the ability to understand every aspect of arm wrestling easily, and the other ability is the ability to apply the knowledge that you need to your arm specifically. You'd want the latter, and that's what he has. I'm not saying he's not a brilliant guy that doesn't understand the sport. I'm saying he's forgoed being a versatile master of all, and realized that his road to greatness comes through small angles and small areas of progress and strength, and that's what he's done. He's not the smartest arm wrestler on the planet, but he's the best arm wrestler I've ever seen in order to apply training, a structured training program to specifically make him great. He's the best at that. People say, what should I do? Don't talk to Devin. Not that Devin doesn't know. Forget Devin. Go talk to Todd. Just go talk to Todd. He'll make your arm. If you're strong enough in the head, he can make your arm bionic.
Yeah, for sure. After I did this list in my and wrote them down, I thought it was funny that I went from Prudnick crazy versatile to Todd Hutchings just 1 lane power. Yeah. All right, next guy, RVJ.
Egomaniacal.
My word was bummer. Just a bummer when I think about him, like what he could have been, and all the physical tools. I just like, man, what a bummer. Still really excellent.
It's waste.
Arm wrestling success.
The best word is wastage.
Yeah,
we've never seen. He's got more physical talent than any arm wrestler I've ever seen. Raw physical talent, and what has he done? Like, he's like what he could have. The gap between who he is and who he could have been is immense. But unparalleled physical raw potential, unparalleled. The hand of a 280-pound man, the bicep of a bodybuilder, where it connects, where it attaches, symmetrical, not much weight on the legs, thin waist, muscular, He's intelligent. RBJ's intelligent. He understands everything about arm wrestling. There's nothing about arm wrestling that confuses him. He's got a very an above average intelligence for sure, but he doesn't have the intangibles.
Yeah, and he's strong as fuck.
Yeah, for sure he's strong. For sure he's
Grip
strong.
records, like crazy strong dude too. Like I mean, with him being half in all the time, he was still one of the best, arguably at one point the best in North America at his weight. So yeah, it just makes me bummed out. I would have liked to have seen him be dedicated. And you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Like I would have loved to see him drink it in and just go for it. So
Yeah.
bums me out.
Yeah. Every man has demons. He's always lost to his. He loses to his. Which is too bad because the potential is immense.
Yeah, no, I agree. Next one, Andre Pushkar.
Tragic.
Yeah, I said heartbreak.
Yeah, tragic. Um, Jesus Christ, yeah. And he was always one of my favorite because he was imposing 6'4", 245, 250, like imposing, physically aggressive. He had that incredible high side pressure hit that was hard to deal with. And genuinely a nice guy, but great to watch in super matches. And I mean, so the good ones are taken a lot. In many cases, the good ones are taken way too early, and the not good ones live to 100. There's no sense. It's just the randomness of life, but pure tragedy. And he left behind a son and a wife, and it's like Jesus. Um, you know, I'm sure when that happened, a lot of people were like, man, why didn't you just take Gobby? Like,
No, yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Because yeah, it was really heartbreaking because when he passed away, he was still so young, and he was technically the number one guy in the world. Like
yeah,
if Pushkar doesn't die in that car accident, like who knows the fights him and Levon could have had where at like he was probably 280 or something when he died.
yeah,
He was just steady getting bigger. Like he'd still be number one. He could have had a run because he was so young.
yeah. He had one move and one point of leverage that was so incredible, but if his wrist turned, he didn't have a great defensive game. So I think he would have struggled with Levon. It's a stupid hypothetical, but he wasn't super versatile. He's incredibly powerful, like fast and strong, incredibly powerful. But because he always had that move, you never really saw him on the defensive side of the table with his wrist, with his pronation opened up. So he wasn't overly versatile. But who's to say people could have got him there? But yeah, incredibly powerful and a great human being. Fucking terrible.
Yeah, no, I agree. Next one, John Brzenk.
I won't say GOAT, I'll say legendary, but my initial thing was GOAT, but every asshole on the planet would have said that. Um, but I like analyzing John. I'd rather, it's hard to give, everyone's going to say legend or GOAT with John. You know what? If I can think about it, I'm going to put the word consistency. That's it. Consistency. That's it. Slow, consistent for 4 decades. Consistent commitment to arm wrestling.
Yeah. No, I typed in GOAT as soon as I thought of him. I'm like every other asshole on earth. But yeah, GOAT, and then it's like dominance, like incredible dominance for so long.
But we see dominance in every sport in small volumes, and then sometimes people get bored and they leave. He's been doing that for 40 years. So is it more impressive that he's been at the top of dominating the sport, or is it more impressive that he's done it for 4 decades consistently without many peaks and valleys? Um, it's an amazing commitment to our sport. But GOAT and legend for sure. But for me, it's his consistent approach. No highs, no lows. Just fucking consistently competing and training for half a century almost. It's insane.
Yeah, that's the longevity for me. That's so
impressive. Yeah, longevity could have worked.
Yeah. All right, next one, Kazimierz Zolov.
Zoliev. Fuck, could use iron for him too. Pound for pound, like, I mean, at 180, he can hold guys 250 in a hook. Like, just pound for pound would be my maybe one of the strongest pound for pound right arms we've ever seen.
Yeah, that's a giant killer.
Yeah, that too. He had super heavyweight hook force in 100 in a middleweight frame. You know,
Yeah, one of the funnest guys to watch arm wrestle. Like a lot of
jeez,
you guys probably don't know or haven't seen him or heard of him. But if you just go, and I always say Zolov. I don't know how you Zoliev. How you?
just him and Cataract. He
Yeah,
beat Jerry Cataract. Like
yeah,
Jerry's trying to flop his wrist. Dude, the guy's half your weight. Just take the fucking hell. Like, Jesus Christ, yelling at the ref and stuff. But I mean, like, and Zulia was holding him. Like, Jesus, and I think Jerry said, "Well, I had a bad flight. I had jet lag." Dude, okay.
yeah. The matches that he had, like he's got highlight reels on YouTube. People can look him up. Just insane wars against giant dudes. He had wars too with Prudnick back when Prudnick was still in the weight class, but he would be in the Zloty tour and like I don't know if he ever won the overall, but he would just have wars with these elite
Yeah,
high
he would upset.
level.
He'd upset a ton of guys in the overalls.
Yeah. And he's just 176. No,
Yeah,
not imposing, clearly in good shape, but like nothing about him physically imposing. But and he's just going on a power move on these guys and just grinding out wins.
yeah, yeah. Gifted right arm. Yeah, pound for pound.
He's got a younger brother too who was very good. We haven't seen him in a long time, but he had a younger brother that was really good. I think they even had a sister that was dominant too. They were a really good family of arm wrestling, but his younger brother, we haven't seen him in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Next one, Devin Larratt.
Um, IQ, IQ. He's got the best brain in arm wrestling. He understands the sport. He's evolved the sport from a technical aspect better than anyone. He understands the sport better than anyone. IQ. He's got the highest IQ in the sport that I've seen. IQ.
Yeah, the first word that came to mind, that's true for sure.
What? Womanizer? Are you going to say womanizer? You're going to say womanizer, aren't you?
No. That was like the third word
Okay.
that came to mind. The the first word that came to mind for him, honestly, the first word was legend, but I'm like, I can't say goat and legend. Ambassador. I think he's the greatest ever ambassador as far as spreading the sport, getting more people involved in the sport. He was the only person out really that had like videos from inthehook.com and stuff back when I started and of in-depth training and lifting techniques, and he's always going all over the fucking world and pulling everybody. Like he's probably pulled more people around the world just in practice settings than anybody in the history of arm wrestling.
He's done more for the sport than 10 other people accumulated that you can handpick. Like he's done more for the sport than 10 promoters. Yeah, he's done. No one's even come close to what he's done for the sport and its growth. And even how we think about arm wrestling, right? He started off in 2007, 8, the high hook, and what the fuck's the high hook? But it was a leveraged hook. He created a different thought process to our sport, and not only developed it, but taught it and supported it, and created one of the better arm wrestling clubs in North America. And fantastic, absolutely. Ambassador is the best word. Good job.
All right, last one. Engen Terzi.
Fucking fire. No, there's a better word for that. I can say temper. There's enigmatic. Enigmatic.
Yeah.
There's 1,000 words I can use for him. He's an ambassador. He's a colossal prick. He's a fierce. I would say no, fierce. Fierce is the word I would use. He was an absolutely uncompromisable, fiery, fierce competitor. Never gave an inch, and he knew he had to because he was rarely the stronger guy, like stronger human. He had a great wrist and stuff, but he had to be angry at the table. He had to, he always had to be. I'm not saying he had to hate, but he needed to have aggression in him to do what he did. Very fiery, very. Actually, the best word for him would be dogmatic, because for him he only sees things in black and white. And when he believes something, you're not going to push him off his lane of thought, or his value or his conviction or whatever. So dogmatic. But again, top 5 ambassador of the sport. What he's doing now. I mean, he was not always a great ambassador. He was a great coach, but now you can argue he's the best. I mean, he runs the best league. He runs the best the best pay-per-view. What he's doing now is exceptional.
Yeah, he's responsible now for the biggest events ever in arm wrestling, and it's just going up. It's the trajectory for it is huge as to what he's doing. I think he'll get even better and better at it as he goes through. The word I chose for him was wizard. That was the first word I thought of. Like he's just a wizard on the table. He's a wizard off the table. Like um,
Oh,
he even his train, some of his training and the way he approaches lifting for arm wrestling, and he seems like he's functioning at a higher level mentally sometimes. Like he's just doing tricks out there.
I'll tell you a funny story. In 2006 Manchester, the World War in Manchester, and there was a pay-per-view, not a pay-per-view, but there was a super match card afterwards with Travis in one of the local pubs, huge pub. Everyone was there. It's when Travis pulled Samarenko. I don't know if you remember that, but
Yeah,
they're fighting. They were going to blows, and afterwards there was a big lounge area, and I was talking. We were pulling and talking, and I looked over, and Engen was on a couch with two pretty. I'm not going to say they were escorts because I don't know that for a fact, but two women that were out of his league, and he was kind of like, and I'm like, this guy doesn't give a fuck. Like it's hard to explain, but he was like, Engen gets what Engen wants. Like he was a very uh, not a imposing human because he wasn't that big, but he had an imposing personality, very imposing personality,
presence for sure.
presence. Yeah,
Big presence in a small package for sure with him. And you can even see that, and it's funny that he's so temperamental too, because when he's not angry, he's very stoic, hardly any emotion ever. When he's just being himself.
he's super stoic until there's a disagreement, and you're on the other side of that. Then he's not stoic anymore. He goes to, and I've had that with him. I remember asking him a question, and I said, I saw you wrote this on the Northeast board, and I said, I think, and right away when I started going against it, you can see his aggression, not aggression, but he was no longer stoic. He was not comfortable with the fact that I disagreed with him. More like, who the fuck are you? But um, he's not the type of guy to say, oh man, do you have a difference of opinion? And I can see wow, it makes me think, oh wow, yeah, he's not that type of guy. And I respect that because I'm more like him than I'm the opposite. Uh, so I get it. I can relate.
Yeah, he's not really interested in your point of view.
No, he's not. And I respect the shit out of that. I respect the shit out of him. But he's not politically correct. And if he thinks he's superior to you in his knowledge, he's not going to throw you a bone. He's not going to say, "Oh yeah, okay, sure, yeah, it makes a lot of sense." And he's not going to do that. He's going to say, "Fuck yourself," And I respect that because he's honest.
Yeah.
He's not.
No,
He's
he
not.
he blocked me years ago. I don't. It's not even the same account anymore because I've been banned and stuff. But he blocked me years ago over a goat debate where he was basically he's like, yeah, John Brzezinski, all of us that pulled with him and were around then know it. If you didn't pull him and weren't around, then your opinion's essentially shit. And I was like, well, yeah, John's the goat, but like basically the same conversation we had where I'm like, the arm wrestlers coming up now are stronger than like they would beat the prime
No,
Brzezinski. And he was just like, whatever, like fuck off, blocked me, like did not even entertain anything I had to say.
and I mean, there was also the lost. A lot was lost in translation because his English was very weak back then. So a lot of times he wouldn't understand, and he would get when he didn't understand or there was a misunderstanding, he took it as this guy's insulting me. So he
Yeah, he
blocked
takes
it.
everything very personally. Yes.
But a great athlete, great athlete.
Yeah,
The
he
best, like
is.
I told you, for me, he's better. For me, he's a better arm wrestler than John Brzezinski. He's a better arm wrestler than Devin. For me, he's the greatest arm wrestler to ever live. We're not talking strength. We're not talking capacity. We're talking the greatest arm wrestling mind and ultimately the greatest arm wrestler to ever live in terms of what he did skill wise on the table and his accomplishments. I mean, world class titles through 8, 9 weight divisions. You know, dominance post injury. Um, Best arm wrestler I've ever seen.
Yeah, pound for pound, I think he's the best of all time.
But I
And
mean, pound for pound means that he cannot be great because he was born with a 5'8" frame. Like I don't know, like great is great. People talk about Conor McGregor being great, but he gets slapped by, um, Randy Couture. Does that not make him great? But so for me, he's the greatest arm wrestler I've ever seen. If he was born 6'3" or he was 6'3", 240-pound man in his early 20s, Engen would have been John Brzezinski.
Yeah,
You know,
his skill and ability is second to none. And I think that's what a lot of people mean when they say pound for pound. That's their way of saying, like, yeah, if this guy pound for pound, if Ingham was 250, he would have been the most dominant, or 300, he would have been the most dominant. But I mean, he was born in the frame he had. So I
if
think
he was 205, his left would have been within a 5-year period. His left would have beat everyone in the world, regardless of weight. His left, if he was just 200, 205, because at 154, his left was walking through elite 220s. Um, great arm wrestling mind. All the intangibles you can ask for. Just wasn't born with a full, a heavy or a heavyweight or a light heavyweight frame.
yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, if you take his tenacity and
there it is. That's the word I could. Tenacity. That's the ultimate word. You put me on the spot with these things, and I'm doing my best. But when you boil it down and we can converse about it, tenacity is the absolute best word to describe him. Just like ambassador for Devin.
yeah, if you take his tenacity and his table IQ and his acumen for arm wrestling and his ability, like, and put it in a giant man's frame, like, yeah, he's going to be the best for sure.
Yeah, tremendous.
Yeah, we already touched on this too before, and I just wanted to bring it up for anybody that is watching this because Devin's match is this weekend, I believe. I think Devin and Auden are pulling this weekend.
Who was it? Was he pulling? I didn't catch the name.
Devin's pulling Greek Leonidas.
Oh yeah, Leonidas. Yeah, the German. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a left-handed match. Devin's looking bigger. I saw him in his videos. He's looking a little saucy again. Not crazy, but he's probably like 250 if I had to guess. He looks bigger again. I don't know that. I don't think he's cutting. For some reason, I thought there was a weight class that he had to make, but Leonidas obviously didn't. If he doesn't, it's going to be a shit show. If he comes in at 260, he's going to dog walk Leonidas. But if he doesn't, I still think Leonidas wins. But he's got a match that we didn't talk about that was announced since we last did a podcast. He's pulling Oleg Petrenko right-handed at 231. Who do you got in that one?
He has to make 231?
He has to make 231 for that.
I like Petrenko. At 231, I like Petrenko. Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to kill Leonidas because once the match stops, Leonidas is just going to blow up. And I know you think more highly of him than I do, but for me, I bet the farm on Devin against Leonidas. Petrenko's a different animal. This guy's a much better arm wrestler than Leonidas. He's a lot more versatile and can adapt better. But then Devin at 231 is super light. Jesus, that's light.
Yeah. Even if he comes in heavy and has to cut, like having to cut, like I know you can make it and feel okay, but you're not 100%.
When you're 25 and you cut, when you're 30 and cut, you can come in. If you do it right, you come in as strong. When you're 50 and you cut, ask John Brzezinski. When you're fit, or Todd, when you're 50 and cut, it takes something out of you. It's harder to do, and it takes a lot of emotional, psychological energy off you, and physically, of course, as well. It's not the same.
Yeah. I like Petrenko in that match too. Petrenko is a guy he's getting bigger too. And he's Andre Pushkar's kind of protege. He was Andre Pushkar's guy coming up. Yeah. And he just looks incredible, man. Every time I see him at the table, I'm more and more impressed by him. Super strong. He's got more versatility probably than Pushkar did. Like he seems pretty strong everywhere. And he's just got like a freakish, from the shoulder to the fingertip, his arms just got that weird look to it where like that looks don't always matter. But with him, it's like, man, this guy, he might be the most dominant guy at that weight for a long, long time.
Yeah, he's got it all.
Yeah, I believe he's pretty young too. Like I don't think
mid-20s.
That's what that was going to be my guess. I was going to guess like 25. I'm going to see if I can look it up real quick. He's kind of got that baby face like Jablonski though. Not as Gerber as Jablonski, but if I had to guess, I'd say he's he's 28 years old. 5'10", 230.
Jesus, that's a tank.
Oh, yeah, all muscle too, man. He's probably got a six-pack. He's carved out of stone.
Well, 5'10", he's going to be giving up length and hand size to Devin, but I don't think it'll matter.
I don't think Devin can Kings move him. I don't think it'll work. I think Oleg's smart enough to get around that and strong enough. Like you have to be smart and strong to get around that. And with that short lever he has, man, if he's able to climb even a little bit in the Kings move for the power he's going to have coming down is going to be a lot.
Another thing is the current arm wrestling table that we use is not advantageous for men over 6'3" or under 5'7". It is made for men 5'10", 5'11". Like, not to say they can't take losses. I'm saying this table, the way our table is built, the symmetry is built for a man 5'10", 5'9", and 5'11".
Yeah, the geometry behind the table is built for the average height man for sure.
Yeah. Not 6'1", not 6'2". They run out of elbow. They run out of real estate going backwards. Um, so and 230, it's a lot of power for that frame.
But yeah, and you got to think he's not cutting; he's just
No.
walking around. So
Yeah, I think Devin's the underdog. I have him as a big favorite against Leonidas, but I have him as an underdog with this one. 231 for sure. For sure. Wow. I
yeah, I'm
mean,
looking forward to seeing that. Because Devin pulls rabbits out of his ass all the time, you know. So, but
I mean,
I don't know what the rules are. I don't know. I think this is at East versus West. We'll do a breakdown next week of the new East versus West card because Ingen did drop a ton of matches. I just knew we'd only have time to really touch on this, especially with Devin pulling this weekend. I wanted to bring that up.
if I give you 10 grand and you got to bet on one of these two guys pulling at 225, fuck it, we'll say even 230. Devin and Todd Hutchins right arm. You have 10 grand. You have to bet on it. You're betting on it. 3 out of 5.
I'd take Todd.
Yeah,
I think Todd was pinning him in WL days.
for sure it was.
That match they had. And Todd's stronger now, it seems like. Todd's just getting better and better. So I would take Todd Hutchins if I had to bet that match. With the weight cap. Like when you bring that weight cap, that changes. Devin has proven that he's not the same guy when he's lighter. It's totally different for him, you know. So and it's anybody. I mean, anybody when you're and I'm sure he's running a large cycle to get that big, which is probably why he's not interested in chasing those supers anymore at his age. You just can't keep doing that unless you want to die early. But when you're losing that weight and that weight he gains from 235 to 270 is pure PED weight.
Yeah.
You're going to lose a lot of horsepower. It's not like he's slowly doing it over years and he's just walking around at 270 for years. Like he is blasting gear to get that big. And then you take all that away, like that's a massive strength gap. So yeah, I would take Todd. I mean, Todd's angle and move is a problem for people that are trying to Kings move too. Like I know they think like, oh, well, we'll just bust his wrist back. Todd's a unicorn there. Like it doesn't really matter. So
yeah.
I don't want to end this podcast either before I give you props on your Bills. Buffalo Bills, Josh.
Yeah, well, I'm betting the house. I'm in a confidence pool, and they're an underdog against the Ravens. Ravens are favored by 2.5 in Baltimore, and everyone in my pool is going Baltimore, and you can add points. And I'm going to bet the whole farm on the Bills. And I'm worried. I was going to ask you about this because I love the Bills offensively. They're efficient on both sides of the ball, but I worry about the run defense against Baltimore's two-headed running attack. It worries me, but in a close game, Josh Allen is looking like a different Josh Allen. Like his numbers are he's throwing dimes out there. Do you think how do you handicap this match? Do you think Bills? I mean, obviously they're 2.5 dog. They're it's a close spread, but who do you like in this game?
I picked them in a little 4-leg parlay as a winner, and I didn't even take the points. I just picked them money line to win. I think people who don't watch, maybe haven't watched the Bills play, would be like, yeah, like Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are going to have a bounce back. The Ravens just don't look cohesive really to me. Like they look, something's missing with them as a team. And then you look at the Bills and it reminds me of the Kansas City Chiefs after they traded Tyreek Hill and everyone's like, oh, they're going to regress. And then they go out and win the Super Bowl and Mahomes is playing with his head on fire. Like they got rid of Stephon Diggs and I'm one of the dummies that said it too. I'm like, oh, they're going to regress. Their offense is going to struggle. And I think I was just underrating Josh Allen and like how important a team that buys in when you take that guy out. And now Josh Allen can play, like, regardless of what you say of, if you're a quarterback of a team, you have to kind of be a manager of the team too. Whereas I got to keep this guy happy if he's got problems. Like he doesn't have to worry about that now. He can just play and throw to whoever's open. He can run when he needs to. And he's athletically as a quarterback, he's everything that you'd want. Like he may not have the speed of Lamar Jackson, but he's got the total package of IQ, arm ability. He
Run
can
through you.
Defense.
Yeah.
Like
yards after contact.
Yeah, he's got everything you'd want in a quarterback. And like the Ravens look in a funk, not in sync. And the Bills are blowing the doors off people in the first half. Like that game was over in the first half last week. They completely ran
Yeah,
through them.
but they're taking the lead, and they're getting the lead. And if they get a lead on Baltimore, they'll win. But if Baltimore can run the ball with success and go up 10 points, I'm not saying Josh won't come back. I'm saying uh, Baltimore won't abandon the run game. And I think they have a great front four, Buffalo, but I think their linebackers are undersized and they're a little bit banged up. And so I worry a bit about the run attack, but it's going to be a close game. And Lamar head to head against an MVP competitor usually crumbles. Lamar crumbles against who he believes is his nemesis for an MVP. So Josh will not. Josh is not. And like you said, they got rid of Diggs, who was give me the ball, and he would force the ball to Diggs. He would force it so to make him happy. When Diggs left, everyone's like, okay, now I'm just getting. He's had games where he's hit 9 different guys. Last game he hit 9 different guys. Against Miami, he hit 7 different guys. That's incredible.
Yeah, that
That's
opens
what,
up your whole offense.
yeah, and he's making it like everyone gets to eat is what they're saying, but he's hitting everyone. They got versatile, dynamic running backs out of the backfield that can catch. He's accurate, and they're not making him run through walls unless he has to. They're not making him be Superman. Now maybe this week he'll have to be Superman. Let him be Superman. But the Ravens' defense in the second half of games is terrible. Dallas almost came back. Their pass defense is terrible. Dallas almost came back to tie that game. Um, and they lost to the Raiders at home. The Raiders were able to come back with Gardner Minshew.
Yeah.
Minshew came back on them. Minshew can come back on them in Baltimore. You tell me Josh Allen, who is arguably the best quarterback, if not the best player in football today. We're early, we're 3 weeks in, but even
The
when he
Bills
got
look
hurt,
like the best team in football.
well,
Like they do. They look like if I had to pick after 3 weeks, I know this isn't taking into account projecting. They look like the best team. And I know the Chiefs have had a harder schedule technically, but they've been real close games. They could have lost all those games. The Bills have been so impressive. And I like you talk about the defense, but the defense hasn't really played bad, especially when the
no,
offense is so fucking good. They're getting up so high on people, and then they can just pound. They can run the ball too. Like they'll just pound it and pound it and pound it and take control of the clock. And
they,
if they get up at all on Baltimore, they're going to win for sure. And I don't even like. I think they win the shootout too.
for sure they do, but they play a nickel defense. They don't. They play 6-on-6. They don't try to load the box. But I think they're the best. I'm not saying they're not the best team. It's too early, but they're the best. If you watch their games and how their offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator are adapting, they were down 17-3 against Arizona. Then they just walked through the Cardinals in week one, and they walked through Miami with Tua, and then they walked through Jacksonville, and they sat Josh in the fourth quarter. They played Trubinsky. So, but if you look at them, they do have. They're not a talented offensive group. Defense, they have a great front four, and on offense, they have a great pass protecting offensive line. And that's the recipe, I think, for a great team is the Lions, right? The trench warfare.
Yeah, they're winning the
But
trenches.
I think they are the best. If you look at how they adapt, last 2 games they had 4-3 without hesitation. They go for 4-3, and Josh Allen hits an open receiver coming out of the backfield, open on 4th and 3. That's not luck. That's coaching structure. That's a coach looking seeing holes, and the defensive coordinator on the other end lost. So they have great coaching minds on that team, and they got the unicorn, and they got a lot of good defensive players that are injured. Bernard's injured, Milano's injured, but if they get back, anything could happen. But I still think it's gonna. I don't love. Baltimore will run and run and run and run and run,
Yeah,
and if trouble with it. I mean, even if Josh scores touchdowns on 60% of his drives, if they cannot stop the run, they will be able to contain it. They will not get run over. I just worry that when a team can average 4.5, 5.5, 6.5 per, and they don't abolish it, they don't abandon it. They're looking at a game where they're going to have 36, 38 minutes of possession opposed to 22 minutes. Right? They can own possession. They own possession against Dallas. They possess the ball very long. But I think Lamar will throw one pick or fumble once or twice, and they'll get Josh and gang will get up one or two scores and then coast. But
yeah. I think you're going to see the Ravens kicking more field goals than the Bills. I think the Bills are confident everywhere. They have the play calling and the ability with Josh Allen and their team. They can score, and they're like some teams when they get in the red zone, they stall out. And the Ravens kind of struggle in the red zone. And I think and I don't know why they have Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. You think they'd be able to just continue to pound it down, but it's almost like once they get in the red zone, they outside of the 20, they almost want Lamar to break a big run and get a touchdown, or get a screen pass that breaks for a touchdown, or a long pass for a touchdown, because they seem to stall out in the red zone. And their kicker's been missing kicks. Tucker's been missing kicks.
He's not the same thing. And the best friend of any quarterback in the red zone or on third down and long or middle is an elite tight end. And Andrews, after his Achilles injury last year,
he's not the same.
Not the same. And look, at Buffalo has Knox and
Kincaid.
Oh, and Knox is a better. He's better at blocking, but Kincaid just has great hands and he's fast. And Josh has those two. And also the modern offense. It's easy really to shut down receivers. It's not that complex to shut down a receiver with the way the defenses play a cover two with the safety to support. But good running backs out of the backfield and tight ends that are quicker than most linebackers are a matchup nightmare for a lot of defenses. And look at Buffalo.
They're both too big for corners too. Corners can't really cover them.
And Kincaid's very fast. And then they got the running back, I forget his name, but he's electric out of the backfield and he catches almost everything. But they're using that. The coordinators are using that to their advantage because they don't have elite wide receivers, but they don't need it.
Yeah,
it's overrated. It's a little bit overrated.
It's overrated when you have Josh Allen. Like when you have Josh Allen playing at an elite level. Like there's receivers who can make quarterbacks look better by making ridiculous catches or just the separation they can get. But Josh Allen can fit it into windows where, in the way they make cornerbacks play nowadays, with how ridiculous they are with pass interference calls. Every receiver is going to have a small window. Normally, an NFL caliber receiver is going to get a small enough window where if you're a good quarterback, you can put it in there. And he's an elite quarterback. I mean, he's playing better than everybody right now. So I think you're going to see them just march down the field and score. Like, it wouldn't shock me if it was 38-33 and they win. It wouldn't shock me if it was 38-17 and they win. Like, I think you're going to see Baltimore struggle in the red zone. They're going to get down. And then the running games, if they get down 3 scores, they're not going to be able to just run it. And like, they're going to be forced to have Lamar start throwing it. And then he struggles when he has to throw. It's almost like Justin Fields is one of the best quarterbacks in the game with a lead. But if he's losing, he's Caleb Williams. Like, he sucks. So
Dak's the same.
Lamar's looked like shit this year. He's looked rough.
He's a front runner. Dak's a front runner, and so is Lamar with leads. And they both have, a great defenses against, because once you're ahead, the other team has to pass. And if you have a good front pass rush that can bring the heat, you're going to cause a lot of turnovers and you're going to get more offense. But they're not great with coming from behind. Mahomes is, Josh Allen is, but they're not great coming back.
Stafford can do it. There's quarterbacks that can do it. That are good from behind.
Look at Stafford with both his 2 receivers out, upset Chicago this week in Chicago. I have that as an upset.
Oh yeah, I picked them too. He's missing a bunch of linemen too. Like he doesn't. Like everyone was talking about, because we played them week 1, and everyone was like, "Man, our D line is shit still. Like we couldn't sack Stafford, even though they were on their 3rd or 4th string tackles." And Dan Campbell said in a press conference, he's like, "How quickly he was getting rid of the ball. They could have had a high school offensive lineman. We can't get there as quick as when they hike it, and he's just throwing lasers. Like it was like 2-step drops, and as soon as his back foot touched, it was out and on target. Like you can't sack a quarterback who's throwing the ball that quick. It's not even physically possible to get to it."
Opposed to Caleb, who's holding onto the ball 4.2 seconds per snap, right?
Yeah, but it's the offensive line's fault for him. We already called that too, that it was going to be everybody else's fault but his.
Fuck.
Yeah, he's a mess. And he had a couple. I will give him credit. Caleb Williams this past week, he threw a couple of good passes, some good deep throws. One of them was on the run, on target for 2 deep throws. But
he also 2 picks.
Yeah, and just
passes,
holding on to the ball too long. And when he extends plays, it's almost like you'll see great quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, even Russell Wilson when he was in his prime. They'll extend plays, but they extend plays to still get the ball downfield to let the receivers get open. He extends plays, and it just looks like he's panicking.
And he'll force it. He'll force the ball.
He forces
instead of running and getting 6 yards, he'll force it in a tight window, which Josh did to Diggs for years, but not necessarily looking for the open guy and just looking to force it because it worked in college. but he's physically impressive. Like he's fast, he moves quick, he can throw on the run. He's just the mind isn't there yet. The brain isn't there yet.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be an issue if they didn't hype him up so much, and if he himself didn't say all this crazy like this is normal for a young quarterback coming in, especially the team like the Bears. Like, yeah, they have weapons, but they haven't been good in forever. They set him up for failure by feeding all this bullshit ahead of time, and the fans are saying they're going to win the division, they're going to be a playoff team. Like, it's super rare for a rookie quarterback to come in, even if they are Hall of Famer. Peyton Manning set the record for interceptions his first year. Like it's super rare to get a CJ Stroud. More often than not, you're going to get a quarterback, even if they end up being great, who's going to struggle. So it doesn't shock me that he's struggling. He could still end up being really good. But I think his mindset and all of the fans and around it, like if they finish this season with 4 or 5 wins, they're probably going to fire Eberflus. And then what happens?
Oh, he's a terrible coach. They played the Colts and they have a good run. He threw the ball. Caleb threw the ball 51 times. Why aren't you running? Why aren't you running? You have an excellent run attack against Colts, who are missing Buckner, their best defensive front four guy. And it's like, why aren't you running? And they were just relying on Caleb to do everything. And he two interceptions. But like Eberflus is the worst coach in football. He's a good defensive mind, but he has no business being dealing with the offense.
Their running scheme sucks too, because you DeAndre Swift. I saw him here for years. When he's healthy, he's a versatile, explosive back. He can catch really good, great hands. He can run really good. He's got great elusiveness. He's fast. He's averaging 1.9 yards a carry on the year right now. Like that's a scheme problem for them. I know their offensive line isn't great, but you have to scheme ways to get turn the short passing game into your running game, a form of your running game where you're just taking short, easy passes to move the ball.
And like, Swift is great at that. Swift excels at that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like I don't know 1/10 of what he knows about football. How do you not scheme? Like, what did you sign him for? You signed him to just pound him up the middle like he's Mike Allstott and get 1.9 yards a carry. Like, where's the scheming here? So
I think the GM probably says, "Hey, we got to get Caleb's confidence up. Let's have him throw the ball more."
That wouldn't shock me either.
You know, there's a lot of politics involved. But look at the Patriots, right? They draft Drake May 3rd. They sit him. They play Brissett to get smashed, and it's like for years that was the template of the Green Bay Packers. We draft and the guy sits for a year, even 2. Love sat for 2 years. Rodgers sat while Favre was throwing. They sit and they learn. You don't put them in harm's way. Look at Young, Carolina. Yeah. Oh, he's in the bad system. Red Rifle comes in last week, 300 yards, 3 TDs. Like that team's good. He was just terrible.
Yeah, they threw him to the wolves immediately. The Panthers are a shit show of an organization, so that doesn't surprise you. But the Vikings, Kevin O'Connell's a really good coach. They're a smart organization. Like the Vikings have had many years of success. They drafted McCarthy, and McCarthy looked good, but they weren't going to play him anyway. The whole plan before he got injured, Sam Darnold's going to start. That's why they signed him. Like they signed him to start. And the Falcons, they drafted Penix because even though he's an older rookie quarterback, they wanted to sit him. Like you can't just throw these young guys.
And these are established teams that can protect the quarterback and have things around them. But generally, teams that draft first overall, like Caleb's coming to a shitty team, a team that won 4 or 5 games last year. So he's not coming to an ideal situation. But he's a meal ticket, so they're not going to sit him. They're not going to sit him.
Yeah.
But you can kill talent that way. But what about the NFC North? Vikings, Bears, Detroit, Green Bay. What a division!
Yeah,
it's a 4-horse division. Well, maybe not with Chicago, but those three top teams. That's going to go right to the end. Minnesota looks incredible on both sides of the ball. Yeah, Green Bay looks even with a backup.
Malik Willis, yeah.
and then you have Detroit, who's the best. We're talking offensive defensive line combo in the league. Goff is your problem. I'm not saying it's a problem, but Goff is the weakest link on that offense.
Yeah, he is. The game we lost, he looked horrible. It was and I kind of have accepted that over the past 3 years with Goff, where he's going to have those one random games where he just looks off. And that's what it was. Like he looked off that whole game. Wasn't accurate. Was making horrible decisions. And then he comes back this past week. He's 13 for 13, his first 13 passes, 2 touchdowns. Like he has those games, but he threw the ball 55 times that game 2 weeks ago, like against the Bucks. So and the Bucks have the worst run defense in the league. They were missing their 2 defensive tackles. I don't understand why they had to throw the ball 55 times. I know they said because the previous matchups they had destroyed their secondary, but when it's not working, like when Goff looks that off, start handing it off. You got Debo and Jahmyr Gibbs, start handing it off.
Give it Montgomery between the tackles, uh, 20 times. And he will go. That's why his best friend is Laporta, a big tight end with good hands. But Laporta, they're not getting him the ball. Maybe I don't know why. Maybe he's injured. But when he's rolling, he's Goff's biggest asset.
Yeah, he's a first down machine on third down. Him and Amon St. Brown are everything a quarterback would want on third down. And he is a little banged up. He's got an ankle sprain, but even the first 2 weeks, he wasn't getting the targets. Something didn't look right, but it's only a few games in. But I mean, you can I love Dan Campbell. He's my favorite coach. You can make an argument he's the third best coach in the division right now when you got Kevin O'Connell with the Vikings, with Sam Darnold torching everybody undefeated. And then you got the Packers with Malik Willis going back-to-back wins, and LaFleur changing the entire game plan of the offense for Malik Willis, who shouldn't even be in the NFL, but he did look good, but he's not a starting quarterback. And they're getting wins. So yeah, it's scary for me as a Lions fan to see, but it's also cool. I'd rather see rivalries develop and see good games over being in a shit show division. So
Vikings in Green Bay this week. Green Bay favored 2. Who do you like there? Fuck.
It's a tough one. I didn't bet on that one. I think that the Vikings will win, honestly, but it wouldn't shock me at all if Green Bay figures out something. I can't. I trust Sam Darnold more than I trust Malik Willis, as crazy as that sounds. And Christian Watson's developing into a really high level deep threat wide receiver for them. And they've got 2 good running backs right now too, like Josh Jacobs and this Wilson cat that they've got. I don't even know the guy's first name. He's look great. But I think Justin Jefferson is just too much, even though the Packers have great cornerbacks. Him and Sam Darnold have something going on right now. It's easy for someone like Jefferson to help a quarterback, but him and Sam Darnold seem synced up. So,
and the defensive coordinator for Vikings, I think Dan Flores. Is it Dan Flores?
Brian Flores.
Brian Flores. His if you watch his pass rush complex combos, like he does. He's got a brilliant blitz mind.
Yeah, that's gonna fuck Malik Willis up.
But there's a chance Love will play, isn't there? I think there's
I don't think he's playing. They had him on IR, so I think he has to miss at least 4 weeks. At least 4 weeks, I think, when they put him on IR. I wouldn't risk playing him. You're 2-1. Like you've looked good. You look good enough to win, and his knee looked funky when he took that hit. So I wouldn't even risk putting him out there. Like why even put him out there?
Against a blitz happy rival.
Yeah, with defensive, it's literally like new schemes every game almost. I don't know how the team learns and adjusts it that quick. And that's why I'm saying I love Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn. We might have the 3rd best coaching staff in our own division. Like it's troublesome. So
I think Dan Campbell, I love his energy. If I was playing for him, guys want to die for him. He's just a great guy, and he's a great. He inspires work ethic and all that stuff. But every once in a while, he makes this boneheaded play on 4th down. Tactically, I don't love him. Doesn't mean he's not one of the best coaches, because if you can inspire overachievement, you're a great coach. But he's tactically, from a tactical standpoint, he's not one of the top 5 best in the league.
Yeah, he's a coach that's in the front line with the soldiers. He's not the general on the horse in the back, seeing the whole battle most of the time. But yeah, I think that's why he gets the most out of his players in an overachieving standpoint. But Kevin O'Connell and LaFleur, they might be the best at developing talent. They're developing talent really well. I mean, Malik Willis looked like a high school quarterback with Tennessee, and now he's playing well. So
that's it.
Yeah.
So
I think. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
You got a 4-way parlay. So you have the Bills winning, and what are the other 3 aspects of that?
It was 3 other teams.
Oh, teams.
Yeah, I can look it up. I don't even remember because I agonized over it for a while because a lot of the games this week I was like, fuck, I don't really want to bet on these. But yeah, I remember I took the Bills. Let's see. Yeah, I think the Bills are going to steamroll the Ravens. Ravens don't look good, man. Do not look good. I took the Cowboys over the Giants laying 6. And I don't even love the Cowboys, but I don't trust the Giants at all. I got the Rams over the Bears, money line, and the Vikings over the Packers, And then the last one, the Bengals over the Panthers. Bengals are 0-3, and I think they're gonna come out guns blazing. I did a little mini game parlay for that too because Burrow's stats right now, his lines are so ridiculous for he's gonna come out of this. I trust Joe Burrow to come out of this. Like I don't think it's gonna continue this downward trajectory he's having at all. So
Well, look at they lost a game where he looked
good.
He looked great. He was throwing darts all over the place, and he's the second best quarterback in the world. And they historically play better when they have to. Like when the back's up against the wall, they generally start playing desperate football and do a little bit better. So what does that get you? What is that five?
Like this Burrow's parlay, it's over 260 passing yards and over 1.5 touchdowns. So if he goes 261 and 2 touchdowns, it pays 3-1.
Jesus.
And that's against the Panthers. Like the Panthers defense isn't that great. So, and then the 5-game parlay, I think it was like plus 1,300, or 4-game parlay was plus 1,300. So I just do little small bets like that, where if it hits.
FanDuel?
It's on MGM. Yeah. FanDuel is probably better for football. They give you way more props and betting stuff, but I play blackjack on MGM too, though. So I just use that for everything. But
hey, man, how's the arm? Talk to me about the arm.
Oh, it's good. I had my first physical therapy today, which was they didn't do shit. They just kind of like straightened it a little bit, and she was like twisting my hand around, and she's like, "Yeah, we'll do this again next week, and then you can take the sling off." And then I go 2 days a week, and she said I can't. I just asked her like, "When's the soonest I can start actually lifting again?" And she's like, 12 weeks. At 12 weeks, we'll let you start pressing, and like right now I'm at 3 weeks, so 9 more weeks I can start doing some pressing movements. I can do lightweight with it again. And then she's like, you're normally going to get all your restrictions lifted at around 6 months. So I'll be able to build up slightly. And then 6 months, hopefully I'm totally free. The main thing they're worried about is me ripping this anchor out. They don't want me to do anything like tendon strength wise or pressure on it, because they want that to totally heal around the bone. But it feels fine, man. I honestly feel like I'm going to come back stronger for arm wrestling because my bicep attachment now is so fucking low. Like it's like I have my arm like locked up kind of like this. I have to literally pick my bicep up and like put stuff under it because the skin is so overlapping from my bicep, my forearm now that it's getting like irritated in there. Like the bicep tendon is so tight, and it's going to look silly like how low. I'm glad he put it that low, but it's like fucking tight.
But all winter the timing's kind of cool because you have all winter. Next spring, next summer, come back better than ever, right? You'll have the time.
Yeah, I have the only thing I have arm wrestling related coming up in February. I've got a match with a guy from Canada at 220.
Who?
Jake Charles, left-handed.
Oh man, I've pulled him multiple times.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Jake's.
Yeah, he's awesome.
It's in the talks, but I think him and I are going to have a match left-handed. So we'll talk more about that too.
Good guy too.
Yeah, I like him. He seems like a real cool dude. I love his style, just inside, dog. So
sticky, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've always been a fan of his. So. But yeah, we'll talk about that. There's a card in the works possibly of Canada versus Michigan.
Nice.
So, yeah, we'll dig into that next week. But I think we ran a little long today, but I don't give a fuck. Our 37 subscribers can stay up a little later.
Sounds good, man.
Good talk. I'm glad I got to know you a little bit better, Chris. So good talking to you, bro.
You too, bud. We'll talk soon.
Yep, see ya.
Spartacus Project Podcast.